In today's episode from Network from Home, I'm going to be showing you how to set up a wireless access point. The specific wireless access point I'll be setting up is a TP-Link EA650 device. But keep in mind that if you have a different make or even a different model of wireless access point, the steps for setting them up are all pretty much the same. Another thing to consider is that there are multiple configurations when you're setting up your wireless access point that you can use. So we'll be talking through those different options that you have when setting up these devices. So what do you need in order to set up your wireless access point? Well, obviously the first thing you need is your access point itself. Most access points will come with a mounting kit. For example, here's the bracket that came with mine. It came with screws as well. So what you'll need if you're going to be mounting your wireless access point, you'll also need a drill with a Phillips head bit, so that way you can screw the screws in, get the bracket all set up, and that way you'll be able to connect your access point to that bracket. These next things that you need will depend upon how you plan on powering your wireless access point. If you plan on using the power adapter that comes with the device, you will also need one Ethernet cable to connect the wireless access point and your router. But the more popular option that's often implemented is powering your wireless access point with power over Ethernet. With power over Ethernet, you're essentially providing data and power to your wireless access point using an Ethernet cable. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to put your wireless access point in a location that isn't near a power outlet. So as you can see here, if you're going to implement the power adapter to power on your wireless access point, your wireless access point will need to be at least this close to a power outlet. If you're implementing PoE, however, you can implement your access point much further from a power outlet. So let's say we're using PoE, we will then need two Ethernet cables. One of those Ethernet cables needs to be rated for PoE. And you also need your PoE power source. In my case, I have a PoE injector, and this PoE injector has a power adapter that I've already connected, which connects the PoE injector to an outlet. If you'd like to learn more about power over Ethernet and how it works, I've made a series of videos that details what it is and what you need to implement PoE. I won't go over that in detail in this video, but check those out if you need more references or you want more information. At this point, you have everything you need and we can start setting up your wireless access point. One thing of note here that I want to say is I won't be walking through the steps of mounting your wireless access point. I assume you've already picked out a location and identified how you're going to mount your wireless access point if you choose to do so. There's a variety of different configurations and it will all depend upon your home, which method works best for you. So I'll leave that to you and we'll walk through just the steps for setting up the device itself. All right, so the first thing that you have to do is connect your wireless access point and your router. We'll first walk through the method if you're just using the power adapter to power on your wireless access point. So what we need to do, and my router's in the other room, so I'll show you an example here, is that your router will have open Ethernet ports on the back of the device. Pick any of those open ports, connect one end of the Ethernet cable to one of the open ports on your router, connect the other end to the open Ethernet port on your wireless access point, and it should only have one, so it should be pretty easy. So now assuming that this router is powered on, it has a connection to the internet, and it's now connected to your access point with an Ethernet cable, what we need to do is we need to take the power adapter, plug the power adapter into the wall, and plug the other end into the open port on the back of the device. There's only one port for the power adapter, so you just connect that there, and then you plug it into the wall. Once you have your wireless access point plugged in, you'll see a blue indicator light telling you that the device is powering on and booting up. That's how to use the power adapter method. Now let's walk through the power over Ethernet method for powering on your wireless access point. If we're powering on our wireless access point with power over Ethernet, the steps to start are pretty much the same. You have your router with an open Ethernet port on the back. You take an Ethernet cable, connect it to one of the open ports, but then the difference is you take the other end of that Ethernet cable and you plug it into the data in port of your PoE injector or your PoE power device. So for me, the data in port is this one here. So we'll connect the other end of the Ethernet cable there. Now what we do is we take our second Ethernet cable This is the one that has to be rated for PoE because it's going to be powering on your wireless access point. That connects to the data and power out port on your injector or your PoE power source. And then the other end of this Ethernet cable plugs into the open Ethernet port on the back of your wireless access point. So now we have our router that's powered on with an internet connection. It's connected to our PoE injector. And then this PoE injector is connected to our wireless access point. So now we just need to take the power adapter, plug it into the wall for the PoE injector, and then we'll see our wireless access point boot up. After you've powered on your wireless access point and you see that blue status light, I would give it a minute to fully power up. And the next steps now are we need to access the device's settings so we can finish its configuration. The easiest way to do this is just about every access point will have an app that's used to manage its configuration. So I have a TP-Link device, and specifically the TP-Link Omada app is used to configure their wireless access points. So what I need to do, I need to use a mobile device, I need to download that application, and then we can move forward with the configuration. Again, if your wireless access point is made by a different manufacturer, you will have a different app, but just look up what that app is, download it on your mobile device, and then we can move forward. So before you go into the TP-Link Omada app, the first thing you need to do is you need to connect to the Wi-Fi network that this wireless access point is broadcasting. On the bottom of the device, there's an informational sticker that provides the default Wi-Fi network name for that Wi-Fi access point. So what you need to do is you need to take your mobile device and connect to that. I'll include a screenshot of a close-up of what that looks like for my device, just so you know what you're looking at. But let's go into the Wi-Fi settings and connect to that default Wi-Fi SSID. So here under My Networks, here's this TP-Link default Wi-Fi network name. So let's connect to the device. Now that we're connected, we can go into the Omada app and continue the configuration. All right, at this point, I've downloaded the Omada app on my phone. At this point, go in, sign up for an account if you haven't already. If you already have an account, just log in and then we'll take it from there. One thing to look for when you sign in is what mode you're setting up the device in. There are usually two options, at least with TP-Link. There's a standalone mode where you're going to be configuring each access point individually if you have more than one. Or there's controller mode. And in controller mode, that's if you have a separate device that's used to control all of your wireless access points at the same time. This is used more for complex networks, and if you have many wireless access points, for most people that have one or two, I would recommend standalone mode. It's just easier that way, and you won't have to worry about getting another device. What happened to me is when I opened up the Omada app for the first time, it had me in controller mode, so I had to select this option here in the top left, and then switch to standalone mode, and then I had to confirm that change. On the next screen that opens, it's a positive result here because we can actually see the wireless access point that we've powered on. So we want to select this one device here. Here you want to set up a username and password for the settings of your wireless access point. I recommend that you choose something that isn't just admin and admin, something that wouldn't be easy for someone to hack into. Just pick something that's unique to you that you won't forget. Once you've entered an acceptable username and password, you go ahead and hit next. And here's where it gives you the options for picking the Wi-Fi network name and the password that's being broadcast by this wireless access point. There are a few different configurations to consider here. The first is if you're implementing your wireless access point in a location in your home to cover a dead spot, and maybe your wireless access point and your primary Wi-Fi router, some of their Wi-Fi signals will overlap. What I recommend doing is use the same Wi-Fi network name and password that your router is broadcasting. And that way, when you're moving with your mobile devices throughout your home, they will seamlessly connect to the Wi-Fi signal that provides them with a stronger signal and therefore a better connection. The other scenario here is maybe you have a detached barn or garage that isn't anywhere near your primary router in your home, but you'd like to provide it with a Wi-Fi signal. You can implement a Wi-Fi access point in that barn or garage, and maybe you want it to have a different Wi-Fi network name and password to ensure that all those devices in your detached building get a strong Wi-Fi signal from that access point. This might be a case where you pick a different Wi-Fi network name and password than your primary router, and this is your opportunity to do that. So let's go in, put in our Wi-Fi network name and password that we want to use, and move to the next step. I should also note here that if you want to just use one Wi-Fi network band with your access point, either the 2.4G, which stretches further distances, or the 5G for faster connections, that's your opportunity to make these changes right here. We're going to keep everything the same. We're going to move to next. Here's a summary for your device. You select next again. And now your wireless access point, all these changes that you just made, they're going to be applied to the device. So you need to give it a few minutes to boot up and implement these configuration changes. Once that's done, you select continue. And now that your device is set up with this app, you can see there's a little bit of information here. You can get some basic statistics about the device. You can see how many clients are connected to it. You can make some changes if you would like to. You can reboot the device remotely with this application. You can locate it. If you select locate, the status button will blink on this wireless access point. And this is super helpful if you have multiple and you're not able to reach the Wi-Fi access point itself. You're also able to look at firmware upgrades. Basically, any of the basic changes you'd like to make to your Wi-Fi access point, you can do so through the app. For the vast majority of people, using the app to set up the device and configure the wireless access point will be sufficient. But there will be some cases, maybe you have a complex home network, or maybe you want to get into the nitty-gritty of the details and the settings and configuration for your access point. In order to do this, what you need to do is access your device through a web browser. I'll show you how to do this on my laptop here, just so you can follow along with these steps if this is applicable to you. Okay, here we are on my laptop. Similar to setting up the wireless access point with an application, the first thing we have to do is connect to one of the default wireless networks that this Wi-Fi access point is broadcasting. So let's do that now. What we need to do, come down here, available Wi-Fi networks, and then we select one of the default Wi-Fi networks. So let's select this one, the 2.4G, connect to it. Now we're connected and we can move forward. We need to open an internet browser. All right, now we need to access the wireless access point settings. There's a default location listed on the bottom of the device on the informational sticker. From me, with my TP-Link device, it's http TP-Link Here it will say it's an unsecured connection. That's okay. Let's go to continue to the site. Here it's the same thing, advanced, continue to this product. So if you're setting up your wireless access point for the first time with this web browser method, this login page might be a little bit confusing because you don't have a username and password for your wireless access point settings yet. But the default credentials, and again, these are on the informational sticker on the device as well, it's admin and admin. So let's enter that and log into the device's settings. Now it prompts you to create a new username and password. Similar to what we did with the application, we're doing the same thing here. Once you've entered your username and password twice, you also might want to automatically check this to check for firmware upgrades automatically. Let's select that and click next. Here what we want to do, again, we have the same decision for setting up our wireless network name and password. You can either make it the same as the Wi-Fi network that your router is broadcasting, or if you want it to be a distinct Wi-Fi network, you can select a different name and different password for those SSIDs. Once you've entered the Wi-Fi network names and passwords, select save. Now that these changes have been made, it's asking you to connect to the Wi-Fi network of this wireless access point. So let's go and do that. Wi-Fi networks, network from home, we're connected. So I'm going to select I've connected to the new wireless network, select finish. And here's where things start to look a little bit different than the application. You get more information about the device itself. You can change a lot more settings if we go under wireless. Here you can change the power of the Wi-Fi networks that the access point is broadcasting. You can adjust the channel width. There's just a whole lot more you can do here. You can set up VLANs. You can filter out MAC addresses. If you want to implement quality of service for specific traffic, you can do that as well. You just have a whole lot more granularity here. So if you want that level of control for your home network, I recommend setting up your access point through the web browser. Again, most of these configuration changes are overkill for most people, but there are some cases where you might want to make some changes. Once you have everything configured properly and your wireless access point is working as it should, now's when I recommend you go ahead and mount it. So for example, if you're mounting it in the ceiling, you want to do that after you make sure it's working properly, but use that mounting bracket, put it in a location where it gives you a good Wi-Fi signal in the areas where you don't have one. and you should be up and rolling when it comes to your wireless access point. As always, thanks for checking out this episode from Network from Home, and we'll catch you on the next one.